Hello everybody, welcome to the GSMC Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. My name is Samantha Genzer. I'm going to be your show host for you today. We have a very exciting show that we're going to be covering. We're going to be covering the rise of women's sports bars, oh my gosh, the WNBA stand-up performances, and a little change in team rankings, Barcelona soccer beating Lyon, and 3 soccer players leaving the Argentina team, recent women's UFC fights, and current standings. And make sure you stay till the end of today's podcast to hear about the CrossFit Semifinals in the... Oh, I'm so sorry if you can hear my dog in the background. She's a bit emotional, so I'm sorry if you can hear her. And make sure you stay till the end to hear a recap of the CrossFit Semifinals and the Oceania Region, and the 4 athletes that have qualified to the games. Very, very exciting. Before we begin, I wanted to ask you guys to like and follow the show, and to become a part of our show to tip and donate using the link gsmcpodcast.net. Also, we do get a number of questions and comments that come from viewers during the show, so to ensure that your questions and comments get read on the air and that I see them, use the link gsmcpodcast.net. Let's put your questions and comments at the top of the list so that I see them. Also, it really does help the show. Once again, the link is gsmcpodcast.net. Okay, now it is time to start the show. I hope you guys enjoy today's content. So our first segment today is very, very fun. We're going to be talking about the rise in women's sports bars. So as we know, the interest in women's sports has increased tremendously this year, and many sports bars now have the goal of showcasing women's sports on their screens to elevate this interest even more and support these female athletes. Interest in women's sports is at an all-time high, helped by, Caitlin Clark's new beginnings this year when she shattered all-time NCAA scoring records for women and men, and also joined the WNBA. And then the championship game, as we know, between Iowa and South Carolina on April 7th drew 18.9 million viewers on average, and that surpassed the audience for the men's title match for the first time, which is crazy. And really, really good for women's sports. The rise in interest is not just for women's basketball, though, but also for other sports as well. The 2023 Women's World Cup reported record attendance with nearly 2 million fans. A University of Nebraska volleyball game played in a football stadium drew more than 92,000 people last August, a world record for largest attendance at a women's sporting event. Before April of 2022, public spaces to watch televised women's sports across the United States were basically non-existent. However, in Portland, a sports bar fully committed to showing WNBA, NWSL, and WTA games and, much more women's leagues has taken center stage. The bar's name is the Sports Bra. Super clever name. I love that name, and that is why I mispronounced the sports bar and sports bra name in the introduction there. So this sports bar, it serves drinks from women-run breweries and distilleries. It has a kids menu, as well as gluten-free, dairy-free, and vegan options across an extensive pub menu fare, all that. Jenny Nguyen, who is on the right here, founded this bar, and inclusion is her main goal. She has already had a lot of success at the Sports Bra. The Sports Bra is now being used as a national franchise to create more women's sports bars. Under the plan, bars and entrepreneurs elsewhere will be able to apply to use the Sports Bra brand for their franchises. Nguyen is open to working with people who already have a physical space, as well as those who may only have just a business plan. What matters, she said, is that the potential future for partners share the Sports Bra's values. One aspiring partner is Jackie Rowe, who hopes to open a franchise in Cincinnati, where she works as the CEO of a media and marketing agency. During an interview at the Sports Bra, where she happily watched her college women's lacrosse team on one of the TV sets, she said such establishments, quote, celebrate women's sports and the champions and the athletes behind the story. And then in March, a bar of their own, which is the name of the bar, opened in Minneapolis, inspired by Nguyen's success. owner Jillian Hiscock hoped for years that a space to watch women's sports would open in the Twin Cities. When it didn't, and the games she wanted to watch still weren't shown at most local venues, a call with Nguyen encouraged Hiscock to apply her project management experience to a restaurant-sized, colorful sports bar. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna keep mixing up the two. A colorful sports bar with free parking and 12 TVs showing everything from Minnesota Lynx games to non-Olympic gymnastics. The screens are visible from every seat to be enjoyed by guests drinking pours from women-owned breweries and distilleries also. Hiscock said, "We've gotten used to being okay with women's sports fans being an afterthought, which is no longer okay. People are no longer accepting it. People are no longer okay with having to ask and beg to be recognized. We're doing our best to highlight these women athletes, and so we're creating our own spaces. We're creating places that are the places that we've wanted to exist, that didn't exist without us. It's a long time coming." Hiscock sees these new spaces as part of the longer story of women's sports and athletes striving for recognition, be it, equal pay, prize money, or just airtime in general. The latter is an ongoing challenge for all women's sports bars owners. Jen Barnes, the owner of Seattle Rough and Tumble, said, "You need a master's degree in streaming services to be able to be a women's sports fan. It's really frustrating how difficult we make it for people to watch women's sports, and we've had incredible progress." In February 2023, just months after opening, Rough and Tumble sold out its capacity of 255 during the Women's World Cup. During the NCAA Women's March Madness tournament, there were lines around the block, and then when the Reign made the NWSL playoffs that fall, the pub had to turn away thousands of fans who wanted to come watch the game, which is insane. But Rough and Tumble had a ripple effect on the bars. When people couldn't get into the women's sports bars to watch the Reign, they went to a nearby establishment and filled them up. And all there were well over 40 watch parties at Seattle bars and restaurants to view the NWSL championship. In 12 months, Seattle went from having one or two places that might play a Reign game here or there to selling out watch parties all over the city. So that whole bar did wonders for the city. But going back to the whole subscription and streaming service issues, even with a subscription to nearly every streaming service, bars can't show the variety of women's games that lack commercial licensing, including many that stream exclusively on Peacock or that can be viewed with the WNBA League Pass. Much needed improvements are coming. As of November 2023, the National Women's Soccer League's media rights deal is the biggest broadcast agreement to date for women's sports, via new partnerships with CBS, ESPN, Amazon Prime Video, and Scripps Sports. This year, 118 NWSL games will be broadcast, a major increase from 30 broadcast windows in 2023. But in comparison, MLB season, which overlaps with the women's soccer season, broadcasts 2,430 games. So yeah, there's still a huge gap there, but it's definitely better from 30. Frustration when seeking women's games to screen year-round is a recurring issue at Icarus, Wings and Things in Salem, Oregon. Co-owner Kelly Gilliland prioritizes showing women's games, but when she does, folks tucking into crisp gluten-free wings at communal tables may not be so amenable and happy with that. They sometimes request that staff change the carefully curated channel to show men's games, which are likely playing at every other venue in town. And Gilliland said about this, "People just don't realize how unlikely it is to find women's sports playing in a bar. We want to be a space where we are not excluding everybody." She also mentioned that it's a good conversation opener when things like this happen. Meanwhile, in New York, a city that seemingly has everything except a place to watch women's sports, which is so strange to me, Athlea's and Athena Kiki's both plan to open women's sports bars in the near future. Jenny Garcia, who is 37 years old, has been a New York Liberty fan since the team was founded in 1997 and spent most of her 20s looking for bars to watch the games. Often denied her request to change one of the multiple TV streams to a WNBA game, which, as we know, overlaps with the baseball season. She finally found a few spots that were open to it, but they ended up closing during the pandemic. Brianna Stewart, 2023's WNBA MVP and New York Liberty forward, said, "These bars are going to uplift and amplify women and women's sports. When we have more viewers, it gains attention. The excuse of not being able to watch isn't going to be an excuse anymore. There's a lot of momentum to get behind." Also, Jackie Diner is in the process of opening Watch Me, a women's sports bar in Long Beach, California. And she said, progress takes time and the time is now. Jenny created the women's sports bar movement. This is just getting started. Everything's aligning. We have superstar athletes and teams. There's a bubble of energy that's been vibrating and just starting to explode. Some other women's sports bars are Parlor Sports in Somerville, Massachusetts, and Whiskey Girl Tavern in Chicago. Both are not technically exclusively dedicated to women's sports, but they very much prioritize them. The emphasis on building community is reflected in women's sports fandom too. Because women's sports are still not as accessible or equitable as they should be, Barnes says that fans are much more likely to show up to support establishments that promote the women's games. She said there's a feeling of ownership and investment on an individual basis that you just don't get from commercialized men's sports. These fans really believe that their participation will make a difference, and so do the bar owners, and I completely believe that too. Every single thing is going to make a difference. It all adds up together, if that makes sense. So we're now going to move on to our next segment where we talk about the WNBA standout performances and updated team rankings, which is very, very juicy gossip there. So, sorry, I was looking at the comments right now. Yes, I agree that Chelsea's women's team killed it this year. Okay, so we are now going to take a short break, and I will be right back, everybody. Okay, so we will see you guys very soon.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Welcome back, everybody, to the GSMC Women's Sports Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm sorry, guys. It has been a long day. So we just got done talking about the rise of women's sports bars, and now we're going to transition to talk about the WNBA. We're going to talk about standout performances and a change in team rankings. It's pretty juice of gossip, I'll be honest. Before we dive into that, I did want to ask that you guys like and follow the show again, and I want to remind you guys to become part of our show by tip and donating using the link gsmcpodcast.net. This also puts your questions at the top of the list so that I see them and they do get read on the air. And of course, we really appreciate the support and it does make a difference. Once again, that link is gsmcpodcast.net. Now that we got that out of the way, we are going to get started. So let's get started with talking about some standout performances. Okay, so let's start with Kayla McBride. Okay. Kayla McBride entered the season, her three-point percentage had dropped for 3 consecutive years with the Minnesota Lynx. It was fair to wonder whether this soon-to-be 32-year-old who consistently plays year-round was, slipping, like she was getting older. Was this going to be her ending soon? But, however, that's not the case. McBride is averaging 17.2 points and a career-best 3.8 assists per game. Her effective field goal percentage is a shocking 70.4. For context, her previous best over a full season is 52.6. Lynx are scoring 40.6 points more per 100 possessions with her on the court en route to a 4-1 start. Perhaps her only blemish was a mixed fadeaway at the buzzer against the Connecticut Sun that would have made their record 5-0. And then also McBride dropped 14 points and added 5 assists against the New York Liberty while defending Lainey Hamilton and limiting her to 4 points on 2 of 8 shooting. Super duper impressive. The next day on the second game of a back-to-back, McBride was perfect from the field for 37 minutes, making all 9 of her field goals and 5 free throws while guarding all-star Ryan Howard and Alicia Gray. She ranks 13th for the most threes in WNBA history, and she has been really dominating the court with her shooting. Next, we have to talk about Monique Billings. I'm a huge Dallas Wings fan, so I mean, of course, I am talking about her right now. Okay, Billings had spent the entirety of her pro career with the Atlanta Dream before her off-season departure. She chose to sign with the Sparks, her hometown team, but was ultimately the last cut in training camp. Her absence from the WNBA didn't last too long, as the Dallas Wings came calling once Natasha Howard and Jaylen Brown went down on opening night, and Billings had been the, quote, missing piece for the Wings, in the words of coach Latricia Trambell. Billings entered the startout lineup for Dallas in her second game and averaged 19 points and 10 rebounds as the Wings went 2-1 this week. And a fun twist of fate, 2 of the games were against Atlanta and Los Angeles, so, those were a little spark to them. Oh my gosh, wait, that's kind of funny. That's kind of like a pun, like the Los Angeles Sparks, just a little spark to them. See, I was thinking about that one. Anyway, Billings had 20 points and 10 rebounds against the Dream. As stat line, she managed only once in 6 years at Atlanta. She individually bested her replacement, Tina Charles, on the night, but Dallas came up short in the final result. Billings would not be denied in her second opportunity for revenge. Against the players whom she battled in training camps 2 weeks prior, Billings was dominant. In the second half, despite being on a back-to-back, she had 3 offensive rebounds of her own compared with 0 for the Sparks. Her driving layup past Cameron Brink with 2.5 minutes to go gave the Wings a lead they would not relinquish. Now, the reason that I am talking about her specifically is because of that, that revenge kind of side to it. It's like drama. Like when I saw that she was going against, Los Angeles Sparks and Atlanta Dream, I was like, oh, this is going to be interesting. And you know what? She did make it interesting. So now we're going to switch over to talking about the team rankings. This is also a lot of drama here, okay? I expected the New York Liberty and Las Vegas Aces to dominate the league. And it seems like there are some other teams that are overshadowing them. Okay, so let's get into them. Previously ranked at 3rd, the Connecticut Sun is doing very well now, ranked at 1st. They are currently on a winning streak of 5 games. They held off upset-minded Indiana by 4 points, beat surging Minnesota by 1 in overtime, and then got past Chicago on the road by 4, despite star Alyssa Thomas being ejected in the 3rd quarter after a hard foul on Sky rookie Angel Reese. Dewana Bonner led Connecticut with a combined 61 points and 3 victories. So she's been really dominating in terms of scoring. And then recently ranked 4th. This actually kind of shocks me too. I did not expect this to be the second place team, I'm not gonna lie. Recently ranked 4th, the Minnesota Lynx moved up to 2nd with a record of 4 wins and 1 loss. The Lynx were a basket away from the top spot in the power rankings, but they suffered a tough 83-82 overtime loss at Connecticut on Thursday. But, despite that defeat and the indefinite loss of second-year player Diamond Miller due to a knee injury, Minnesota's top draft pick last season, the Lynx got back-to-back wins Saturday against New York and Sunday against Atlanta. Kayla McBride had a big day Sunday with 31 points, making her first 9 shots from the field. We already talked about her. Very impressed with how she's doing. Of course, she is being very beneficial for the team. At 3rd, Here's where it gets a little bit awkward. We have the Las Vegas Aces. They were previously ranked 1st. They had 3 wins and 1 loss. A lot of people said that they were going to win this league this year. A lot of people are predicting that. But you know what? I'm not saying they don't have that opportunity anymore. Don't get me wrong. But I just thought that they were going to stay at 1st place a lot longer, if that makes sense. They have 3 wins and 1 loss, like I said. The Aces defense let them down in Tuesday's 98-88 loss to Phoenix. Coach Becky Heyman said it would be a good wake-up call for the 2-time defending champions, and they responded Saturday with a blowout win over Indiana. I will say, though, that the Phoenix game, where it was 98-88, is pretty intense. I recommend going back and watching that game. It's pretty intense. And it also, you would expect it to be a closer game. Of course, a 10-point difference is still a close game. But I don't know. I didn't realize that the Aces would lose that much to that team. But Anyway, at fourth is also an awkward position for the New York Liberty, who was recently ranked second. They have 4 wins and 2 losses. After a 4-0 start to the season, Liberty had a rough week, as you can see. They lost at home to Chicago and at Minnesota. New York was out-rebounded in both games, while Jonquel Jones was held to single-digit scoring and each shooting 38.5% overall. For as good as the Liberty have looked at some points this season, they really don't seem in sync at others, like as a team. I don't know. I think they're going to get their head back in the game. I have a feeling they're going to get back up, but it just seems that they had an off week for sure. In fifth is the Dallas Wings, and they were previously ranked 6th. Oh, someone just said 10 points isn't that much nowadays. No, it really isn't, but there has been so many games that have been like 1 point difference that when you see a 10-point difference, you're like, oh wait, that's so much. It's like, it's really not. that's not, but yeah, no, I totally agree. It's not that much. It's a very close game still. Anyway, so the Dallas Wings, they were previously ranked at 6th. They have 3 wins and 2 losses. They started with a loss at Atlanta on Tuesday, but bounced back with weekend victories at Phoenix and Los Angeles. Guard Enrique Agumbawale scored 24, 40, and 20 points in the 3 games. Her 19-point fourth quarter against the Mercury is the highest scoring quarter this season by a WNBA player. So obviously she's doing great. She always does great though. Like, why are we shocked here? No, she's honestly probably one of my favorite guards in the league, to be honest. The Phoenix Mercury is at 6th, and they were ranked 5th, so that's not great for them, I guess, but it is just one down, so it's not the end of the world. They have 3 wins and 2 losses right now, the same as the Wings. Kayla Copper leads the WNBA at 29.2 ppg, and Diana Taurasi seems to have turned back the clock a bit as she's at 19 ppg. The Mercury eagerly await the return of center Brittany Griner from a toe injury, but regardless, they've had a decent start without her. I have so much confidence in this team, especially with Copper. She is just killing it. She's really been having a lot of great high-scoring games. In 7th is the Seattle Storm with 3 wins and 3 losses. They were previously ranked at 8th, so this is great for them. The Storm beat teams they were quote-unquote supposed to beat last week, Indiana and Washington at home. Joel Lloyd was key in the Storm's tight 85-83 victory against the Fever with 32 points, 11 rebounds, and 6 assists. In a 32-point blowout of the Mystics, 5 Storm players scored in double figures as Seattle shot 61.7% from the field. Deegan Smith scored 60 points and had a season-high 9 assists, so that's pretty great. I feel like this team especially just seems to be improving and improving. I think their improvement this season has been really notable to me. I guess, I don't know. I mean, you see teams keep improving each game or going the opposite way maybe. Let's hope not. But this team especially, I just see them, they do these things that I'm like, wow, they really changed as a team or something. Like little minor things. I don't really know how to explain it. Anyway, previously ranked at 9th is the Chicago Sky, who is now at 8th. Their record stands at 2 wins and 2 losses. First-year coach Teresa Weatherspoon Sky are off to a much better start than most were predicting. Guard Marina McBride leads the way with 19.3 ppg, 7 RPG, and 5.5 APG. Rookie Angel Reese is the Sky's top rebounder and second leading scorer. She took a hard foul from Connecticut's Alyssa Thomas, who was ejected on Saturday and got right back up. I mentioned that earlier. Reese wants to improve her shooting percentage of 35.7%, but overall she is doing very well. Moving on to 9th, we have the Atlanta Dream with 2 wins and 2 losses. Ryan Howard is off to a strong start, leading Atlanta in scoring and steals. Vets Alicia Gray, Tina Charles, and Cheyenne Parker-Tyus are also averaging in double figures. And 10th, this makes me pretty happy, is the Indiana Fever. They lost 6 games and have only won 1 game. The Fever got their first win, which was 78-73 at Los Angeles on Friday, and their first look at the 2-time defending champion Aces. They have played the most games of any WNBA team and look weary at Vegas. Caitlin Clark leads in points, assists, and steals. Veteran center Tammy Famboulet, whose energy has been a lift to the Fever, moved into the starting lineup at Vegas, and Aliyah Boston had her best game of the season at Los Angeles. I feel like they're really coming together as a team. They had a rough start in the beginning, and it seems now that there's been a lot more confidence from each of the players. At 11th is the Los Angeles Sparks. Okay, this one also hurts me so bad. My first ever time watching a professional WNBA game was the Los Angeles Sparks. So, I don't know why, but there's like a soft spot to me with those Sparks. I don't know. But anyway, I don't know. I just feel like they should be doing much better than they have been. They lost 4 games and only won 1 game. Over the weekend at home, the Sparks lost by Indiana by 5 points and Dallas by 1. Rookie Cameron Brink had a combined 36 points in those games and leads the WNBA in block shots. She's also one of my favorite rookies, so I think that's why I do have a soft spot for this team. Lastly, at 12th is the Washington Mystics. They were previously ranked at 11th, so there isn't much change or shock there. They have 0 wins and 6 losses. There was a little doubt that this could be a challenging season for the Mystics, with Elena Deladone not playing and Natasha Cloud leaving as a free agent for Phoenix. Things got worse with the May 17th injury to guard Brittany Skies. It was an ankle injury. And in Saturday's 32-point loss at Seattle, the Mystics also were without center Shakira Austin. This is Washington's worst start since losing its first 8 games in the 2007 season. I'm interested to see if they can pick it up. I did not expect them to be having this rough at the start of the season, to be honest. Also, someone just wrote, I wish I could get ejected sometimes. That is really funny. I'm sorry, I'm trying not to crack up right now. That is so funny. So we are now going to move on to the next segment where we talk about some international soccer updates. Before we get into that, we are going to be taking a very short break, so I will see you guys very soon.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the GSMC Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. We just got done talking about stand-up performances and team rankings for the WNBA, and we're now going to move on to talking about Barcelona and Argentina soccer updates. So we're going to talk about how Barcelona won the Women's Champions League crown and the players that quit the Argentina team for some little gossip right there. Okay, so let's just get right into it. Okay, so Barcelona ended their losing streak this against the game's most successful club on Saturday, beating Lyon 2-0 to clinch its 3rd Women's Champions League title in 4 years. World Player of the Year, Itana Bonmatí scored in the second half, and former world player Alexia Putellas added a second deep in stoppage time for defending champion Barcelona in front of a record crowd of 50,827 people for a final. Bonmatí said, "This team has made history. With each passing year, we just want more. The first time we have beaten Lyon, and to do it like this in a final, winning back-to-back Champions League titles, this team deserved it." Barcelona lost the 2 previous finals it played against the French side in all 4 of its previous matches against Lyon, which was seeking a record-extending 9th European trophy. Barcelona adds to its Women's Champions League titles in 2021 and 2023 in its 4th consecutive final. Lyon coach Sonia Bonpastor said, "The reality is that Barcelona has taken 2 consecutive titles and their dynamic is extremely positive, not only regarding results but also amount of quality of the game and the amount of support that they have. The other clubs, not only Lyon, have to be motivated by that and try to find ways to beat that." Barcelona defender Lucy Bronze then said, "We knew we needed to be a club that made history. It's not easy, it's hard to win at once, but to do it back-to-back, Lyon showed how difficult it is. This team finally done that. We go down in history as one of the best teams in Europe." Former Barcelona player Messi congratulated the women's side on Instagram. Their success follows Spain's triumphs last year in the Women's World Cup and the inaugural Women's Nation League. It was, so actually getting into the game itself, it was an even match from the start, with neither team really creating significant scoring opportunities. Lyon hit the woodwork and goalkeeper Kristen Endler made easy saves at the other end. Lyon was able to keep Bonmatí in check during most of the match, but she broke through with the opening goal with a nice run into the area before firing a left-footed shot past Endler in the 63rd minute. The ball deflected off the leg of Lyon defender Vanessa Gillies. Patellas came off the bench in stoppage time and scored a few moments later. She celebrated by taking off her jersey and running towards the fan. It was so fun to watch. Bonmatí Sturt, the first woman to win the Women's Champion League as a player and coach, was trying to become the first woman to win 2 titles as a coach. Lyon was playing in its 11th final in 15 seasons and was seeking its first title since it beat Barcelona in the 2022 final. The French club also defeated Barcelona in the 2019 final, and it won 5 titles in a row from 2016 to 2020. So, a little rivalry there. Lyon defender Danielle Van de Donk said, "I'm very emotional. No one likes to lose a final. You're here to win it. It's a shame you don't create enough. Barcelona overtook the game and they kind of deserve the win. I'm so very proud of my team. We gave it our all. We had some regrets, of course, but hopefully next year we're back again." The Barcelona victory came as soccer officials celebrated the success of a 5-year plan to boost the women's game, a plan that was renewed ahead of the final to keep the sports growing. The time for auction project was put in place by the UEFA in 2019 to try to improve women's soccer. The European soccer body aimed to double the number of women and girls playing the game and said it was more than doubled that target, with nearly 3 million women and girls currently playing soccer thanks to their investments of key initiatives such as the UEFA football in schools. And then UEFA said that there are now 47 associations with a strategy in place for women's soccer, and noted that 20% of its committee members are now female. So it's been going very good so far. Beginning in the 2025 to 2026 season, UEFA will introduce a single league stage featuring 18 teams and a second club competition in women's soccer. UEFA this season also launched a new national team competition system with the Women's Nation League and the Women's European Qualifiers. The goal was to basically help develop a national team game in the same way that the Women's Champion League is, reshaping the club's landscape and improving the competitiveness. Now, let's take a little switch here and talk about the players that quit the Argentina team. This is very sad because all of these players are amazing. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I just had technical difficulties. My screen just completely froze. That scared me. I was like, please don't shut down on me right now. Okay, so let's talk about these 3 players. So these 3 players quit Argentina's women's squad on Monday at a dispute over not being paid and conditions at a camp ahead of 2 friendlies. Goalkeeper Lorena Oliveros, defender Julieta Cruz, and midfielder Lorena Benitez, all regular starters, walked out. Cruz posted on Instagram, and I quote, "We reached a point in which we are tired of the injustices, of not being valued, not being heard, and even worse, being humiliated. We need improvements for Argentina's women's soccer national team, and I'm not only talking about finances. I speak about training, having lunch, breakfast." Cruz and Benitez said during national squad training sessions they received a ham and cheese sandwich and a banana, which they consider inadequate for high-performance athletes. I agree with that. I don't think that's enough. They said the Argentine Football Association told them they won't be paid for the friendlies against Costa Rica on Friday and Monday because the games are at home in Buenos Aires. I don't understand that one either. And Benitez added their family members are being charged 5,000 pesos, which is $5, for match tickets, which also does not make sense to me at all either. They should not be having to pay. Oliveros wrote on Instagram, with a broken heart and thousands of dreams disappearing little by little, may the next generation enjoy and be happy running after football as we were some time ago. Stefani Estefania Banani, considered the country's best female player ever, supported her 3 former teammates. Last year, she also decided to stop playing for the national team, and she posted on social media, "A matter of time, thanks for being willing to speak about it." The situation with Argentina's women's national soccer team is deeply concerning and highlights a systematic issue that plagues not just soccer, but many sports globally. In my opinion, it's high time that governing bodies, sponsors, and fans give women's sports the support and respect they deserve. The disparity in treatment between male and female athletes is stark and just unacceptable. Female athletes train with the same intensity, commitment, and passion as their male counterparts, and it's only fair that they receive equal treatment, including proper nutrition, training facilities, and fair compensation, and ticket prices for family members. The courage shown by these players in a stepping forward cannot be understated. By taking a stand, they are not only fighting for their rights, but also paving the way for future generations of female athletes. It's crucial for the sports community globally to rally behind such causes and push for systematic changes. This incident should serve as a wake-up call to sports organizations everywhere that change isn't just necessary, it's overdue. As fans and supporters of the sport, we must demand better and hold these organizations more accountable. Only then can we hope to see true equity in sports where athletes are valued for their talent and dedication and irrespective of gender. Also, it is important to note that these are 3 of the top players in the Argentina team, and to have them leave is a huge wake-up calling in a way. Oh my gosh, someone just said, did you say Gwen Stefani? I'm so sorry, I did not say Gwen Stefani. Estefania is the first name. I'm so sorry. It did sound like I did say Gwen Stefani. I'm so sorry. That must be confusing. I'm very bad at pronouncing names. I apologize. But just having these 3 players who are starters, it's a huge wake-up call to all teams out there, and not just in soccer teams, but to all teams. They're taking a huge stand for female athletes, and I think that's something that we should admire, but also it's a big wake-up call to the sports community globally. So now I'm going to dive into the next segment where we're going to talk about past women's MMA events and the current rankings. Before we do so, we are going to be taking a short break. So I will see you guys very soon.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Welcome back to the GSMC Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. We just got done talking about Barcelona and Argentina soccer updates, and we're now going to transition to talking about the women's MMA. So we're going to talk about 2 past UFC Fight Night matchups that were really exciting to watch, even though they were kind of a little long ago. The fights we're going to talk about is Ribas v. Namajunas from March 23rd and Blanchfield v. Fiorot from March 30th. So let's just get right into it. Let's start with the Ribas v. Namajunas from March, what date did I say? March 23rd. Oh my gosh. My bad. So sorry, guys. Anyway, so this fight seriously had it all. Amazing finishes, wild fights, and even a bite in it, which is crazy. Namajunas ended up beating Ribas in the fight by an anonymous decision. I'm going to first give some background information as to both who these fighters are. As of March 26, 2024, Amanda Ribas is number 9 in the UFC Women's Flyweight rankings, and as of April 9, 2024, she is number 8 in the UFC Women's Strawweight rankings. Rose Namajunas is a former 2-time UFC Women's Strawweight champion. As of April 2nd, 2024, she is number 6 in the UFC Women's Flyweight rankings, and as of April 9th, 2023, she is number 7 in the UFC Women's Pound for Pound rankings. This fight took place in Las Vegas. This was Namajunas' first step in a quest to reach the top of the flyweight division, and she ended a 2-bout losing streak in this fight. 2 of the judges gave Namajunas 4 of the 5 rounds, and the other judge scored 3 in her favor. Ribas was able to score 4 takedowns, but she ended up in a bottom position in all but one occasion. Namajunas did not deliver a lot of damage from the top, but she had nearly 7 minutes of control time. Ribas attempted a few submissions, but made little effort to get back up, and that really did cost her. When the fight was standing, Ribas was busier with strike attempts, but Namajunas was far more accurate, landing at just under 50%. Neither competitor wobbled the other with strikes. Namajunas controlled the range all fight long, but the power she had shown at strawweight was not present against Ribas. After the fight, Namajunas mentioned she wanted to fight Fiorot, Blanchfield, and Macy Barber. At this time of her fight, all were ranked ahead of her in the ESPN rankings. After the fight, Namajunas said, "Man, it's good to get your hand raised. I know I still got things to work on. She did really good, but I was able to just stay calm in there." So now let's just switch right over to the fight of Blanchfield v. Fiorot, which took place on March 30th. Okay, so as of April 2nd, 2024, Manon Fiorot was number 2 in the UFC Women's Flyweight rankings and number 4 in the UFC Women's Pound-for-Pound rankings. Erin Blanchfield is a former Eddie Bravo Invitational champion. As of April 2nd, 2024, she is number 3 in the UFC Women's Flyweight rankings, and as of April 9, 2024, she is number 8 in the UFC Women's Pound-for-Pound rankings. In this fight in Atlantic City, New Jersey, Fiorot solidified her status as the next number 1 contender with a dominant performance over Erin Blanchfield. Fiorot throttled Blanchfield's attempts to take her down and landed the cleaner strikes en route to an anonymous 50-45 judges' scorecards. The 125-pound women's main event headlines the first UFC event in Atlantic City since 2018, so this was a big deal. Fiorot improved to 7-0 in the UFC after this match. Blanchfield, who fights out of New York, showed a lot of heart over the course of the 5-round main event, but she was just simply overmatched against the bigger, better striker. Fiorot's physicality was a major difference in the contest, as Blanchfield struggled to get the fight to the ground or control things along the fence. Blanchfield's greatest strength is her grappling, but the 24-year-old seemed to accept Fiorot would be difficult to bring down and challenge her on the feet. According to UFC stats, Fiorot outlanded Blanchfield in total strikes 164 to 142. Although the difference in total strikes wasn't awful, Fiorot clearly landed the harder strikes, which primarily relied on her counter right hand. She opened a cut over Blanchfield's right eye in the 3rd round and stunned her with another right hand in the 4th. And that, it was rough. It just did not look very, very pretty. Ugh. Yeah, I don't think I could ever be an MMA fighter. I do not have the guts for that. Fiorot's run includes wins over Blanchfield, Rose Namajunas, Caitlin Nonara, and Jennifer Maya. So now let's talk about the current rankings in strawweight, bantamweight, and flyweight. Starting with strawweight, Sean Wheely is first with a record of 25 wins and 3 losses. Her last fight was a win against Yi Xianan. At second is Amanda Lemos with a record of 13 wins, 3 losses, and 1 draw. Her last fight was a win back in February against Mackenzie Dern. At third is Yi Xianan with a record of 17 wins and 4 losses. And fourth is Tatiana Suarez with a record of 11 wins and 0 losses. Ranked 5th is Verna Jandiroba with a record of 20 wins and 3 losses. Her last fight was back in the end of March with a win against Lupe Godinez. In 6th is Jessica Andrade with 26 wins and 12 losses. Her last fight was in April with a win against Marina Rodriguez. And then when Rodriguez is 7th with a record of 17 wins, 4 losses, and 2 draws. Mackenzie Dern is at 8 with a record of 13 wins and 5 losses. And then in 9th, who we just talked about, is Amanda Ribas with a record of 13 wins and 5 losses. And her last fight, like we said, was against Rose Namajunas. And then lastly at 10th is Angela Hill with 17 wins and 13 losses. Now let's talk about the rankings in the bantamweight division. Here we go. Raquel Pennington is ranked first with 16 wins. Is that even a word? First with 16 wins and 8 losses. Her last fight was back in January with the win against Mayra Beno Silva. And second is Kayla Harrison with a record of 17 wins and 1 loss. She won her last fight against Holly Holm in April. Fiorot is in third with 14 wins and 3 losses, and then in fourth is Holly Holm with a record of 15 wins and 7 losses, and we already talked about her unfortunate loss in her last fight. In fifth is Irene Aldana with 15 wins and 7 losses as well. And next in sixth is Sarah McMahon with a record of 14 wins and 7 losses. And then we have Norma Dumont with 11 wins and 2 losses. Her last fight was in April and she beat Germaine de Redemay. In eighth is Panine Kia Onzid with 16 wins and 8 losses. Her last fight was back in March and she unfortunately lost to Macy Jason. Moving on to ninth, we have Carol Rosa with 17 wins and 6 losses. And lastly is 10th is Yana Santos with a record of 14 wins and 8 losses. So now let's just quickly talk about the rankings in the flyweight division. This is probably my favorite division to watch because there's like really close, tight competition in some of these fights. In first is Alexa Grasso, who has 16 wins, 3 losses, and 1 draw. She had a draw with Valentina Shevchenko back in September, and Shevchenko is now number 2 in the flyweight division. Shevchenko has 23 wins, 4 losses, and 1 draw. In third is Manon Fiorot with 12 wins and 1 losses, and her last fight was against Erin Blanchfield. And then Blanchfield is in fourth with 12 wins and 2 losses. And fifth is the famous Liz Carmoch with 21 wins and 7 losses. Her last fight was in April with a win against Juliana Villequez. And sixth is Macy Barber with 14 wins and 2 losses. And she beat Caitlin Sermonaro back in March, and that was her last fight since. And seventh is Jessica Andrade with 26 wins and 12 losses. And she won against Marina Rodriguez in April, and that was her last fight since. In eighth is Caitlin Sermonaro with 18 wins and 6 losses. And in ninth is Rose Namajunas, who we talked about, with 12 wins and 6 losses. And her last fight was the one against Amanda Ribas in March. Lastly, in 10th is Viviane Araujo with 12 wins and 6 losses. And her last fight was an unfortunate loss to Natalia Silva in February. So we're now going to move on to the next segment where we're going to talk about the CrossFit semifinal results in the Oceania region. This is my favorite part of this show today. I love talking about the CrossFit semifinals, any of the CrossFit competitions, and the Oceania one was very tight, close competition, so I recommend that y'all stay tuned for that. Also, someone just asked if I'm watching any sports tonight. I'm going to be catching up on WNBA games. I have some, ready for me to watch. I have to, catch up in some of them from this week. So that is the things that I'll be watching in sports tonight. Also am planning on watching some of the ones from more recently. But anyway, okay, so we're going to go take a quick break, and I will see you guys very soon. Hello guys, welcome back to our GSMC Hoops and Heels Women's Sports podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. This is the last segment of today's episode, and my favorite segment we're going to talk about. We just got done talking about the women's MMA past fights and current rankings, and we're now going to go into talking about the CrossFit semifinals and the Oceania region results. So, the North America West region and Oceania region had their CrossFit semifinals last week. Yesterday, we went over the North America West region CrossFit semifinals, and if you are interested in checking that out, I recommend you look at yesterday's video. I also made some predictions about who is going to qualify for the Oceania region to the CrossFit Games on Friday, May 24th episode, so I recommend you check that out to see if I was decently correct in my predictions. So let's just get right into it. The top 4 athletes in the Oceania region qualified for the CrossFit Games. And here's where I was wrong. In first place was Grace Walton, and in second place was Madeline Sturt. When I made my predictions, I predicted that Madeline Sturt was going to finish in first place and Grace Walton would finish in second. The reason I had Sturt first was because she won first in the quarterfinals and she did very well in the opens. I feel like she had the best, somewhat of a best chance to get first again. Walton placed second in the quarterfinals, so after watching the semifinals, I think the top 2 positions can sort of go back and forth between Sturt and Walton. It all depends on what they're good at, what their weaknesses are, and what their strengths are, and then that depends on how they'll do in the workouts in the games and what the workouts are in general in the games. So we're going to dive into the stats of Walton for her first place position, and we're also going to dive into the stats of Sturt at the same time, because I want to compare the two a bit. I really do think that they can kind of go back and forth in some of a way. I think it could go either way, especially when you guys, I'm so sorry if you can hear my dog in the background. Okay, so, oh my goodness. Okay, there we go. Okay, no. Okay, there we go. I'm so sorry. My computer keeps glitching. I really hope the screen is not glitching like the video. If it is, I'm really sorry. Okay, so Sturt finished in first in a lot of the events, which makes it a bit confusing because she ended up placing second, but it's because they have to average the scores across the board and there's a lot that goes into it. So just keep that in mind, that getting first place in a bunch of events doesn't mean that you're going to get first place overall. Like for instance, if you place first in all events and then in one event you place 50th, you're obviously not going to finish in first place overall. Anyway, let's actually dive into the performances now. So in the first event, it's 5 rounds of an 800-meter run and then 10 clean and jerks. It's a combination of strength and speed, so you need that intense cardiovascular strength and physical full body strength for the clean and jerks. Walton finished third in this event. She had a time of 24 minutes and 59.66 seconds. For Sturt, she finished in first place with a time of 24 minutes and 25.94 seconds. Their times were very close. I think they both have that amazing ability to combine quick bursts of strength and then sprinting. Moving on to the second event, the workout is 5 rounds of 10 double unders. Oh, awesome. Someone just said the screen is fine. Okay, that's good. 10 double unders, 20 toes bars, and 10 front squats. So for this, you really benefit with intense core and leg strength for sure. You got to be able to hold your body weight in all of these, but then also add weight in the front squats. Walton finished in second in this workout with a time of 12 minutes and 42.57 seconds. Sturt finished in first place with a time of 11 minutes and 41.53 seconds. That's a pretty big gap. Sturt kind of dominated this event for sure, considering that it's a full minute apart from each other. Just by looking at the first and second event, I feel like Sturt does slightly better than Walton when it comes to just pure strength movements, like explosive strength workouts, but I'm not saying that 100% sure because both of them like excel at the same things in a way. I really feel like it could go either way with them sometimes, especially like after watching the semifinals. I really felt like they were the same person at sometimes. In the third event, the workouts consisted of 7 rounds of 10-calorie echo bike, 1 legless rope climb, 10 box jump overs, and another legless rope climb. Height would help you in this workout with the rope climb since you can jump up higher, and of course, height would help you with the box jumps overs because you have taller legs. Sturt is shorter than Walton, but literally by a couple of centimeters, so that wasn't really much of an influence. Sturt ended up finishing first in this event with a time of 12 minutes and 1.93 seconds. Walton came in second with a time of 12 minutes and 18.20 seconds. Very, very close. So that concluded the first day. It was pretty much back and forth between the two of them. A lot of spectators, including myself, thought Sturt was going to come out on top, but the second day sort of had a little turnaround that changed the ending results. In event 4, Walton finished in first with a time of 8 minutes and 34.70 seconds, and Sturt finished in third with a time of 9 minutes and 4.32 seconds. This workout has a lot of different skills in it. You have to do a 400-meter row, followed by a 96-foot handstand walk, followed by a 600-meter roll, followed by a 120-foot handstand walk, followed by an 800-meter row, followed by a 72-foot handstand walk. And if you have upper body strength, you will dominate this event. Walton really showed off her upper body strength in this event for sure. Event 5 is where things really changed for Sturt. This workout goes like this. It's very repetitive too. 10 squat snatches to 8 squat snatches to 6 squat snatches to 4 squat snatches to 2 squat snatches. And the weight increases by 10 pounds in each of those squat snatches sets. You need that perfect mix of endurance and strength to really do well in this one. You also need to have that, championship mindset of being able to keep pushing yourself to do more weight in each set. Walton finished in second with a time of 6 minutes and 57.14 seconds. She dominated that workout. It was clear right then that she had that champion mindset and intense strength that would help her dominate in certain events. For Sturt, however, she finished in 13th place. Now, that is not that bad, okay? It's not bad at all. But this place really dropped her score down, which is a main factor in why she finished in second overall. She had a time of 9 minutes and 18 seconds. Now, I didn't do the math on this, I'll be honest, but I'm sure if she placed in the top 3, she would have come out on first for this one. Even in the top 5, probably. Now, don't rely on that because I did not do the math and averaged all of that. Anyway, moving on to the last event, event 6. Oh my goodness, guys, I'm so sorry. You can see, I'm so sorry. I repeated the workout in the middle of the screen right there. I'm really sorry, guys. It does not look very pretty. Anyway, we'll get through this event quickly so you guys don't have to look at this ugly picture. Okay, Sturt revived herself a bit by coming in first place with a time of 3 minutes and 26.30 seconds. Walton came in 6th place with a time of 4 minutes and 31.43 seconds. The workout for this event is 1 round of 30-calorie echo bike, 15 muscle-ups, and 72-foot dumbbell walking lunges. You really need intense upper body strength for this, cardiovascular strength, and having long legs would obviously help with this, the lunges. I think in this event, it could have gone either way for Sturt or Walton. I see both of them doing well in this event, and it showed at the semifinals based on their times and placements. It is a big gap in between placements, but it still is relatively close in time. it is a minute gap, which isn't, I guess a minute gap is longer, but I don't know. They just seem both are like athletically gifted in the same ways, if that makes sense. Like when they're performing side to side, you're like, they're like the same in some ways. So, yeah. Anyway, now we're going to talk about 3rd and 4th place. So like I said, 3rd and 4th place also qualifies to the game. So very good for them. So here's where my prediction went terrible. I predicted that Caitlin Van Zyl would finish in 3rd. Well, I was wrong here. She ended up finishing 7th, whoops, and said Daisy McDonald finished in 3rd. I didn't even mention her in my predictions at all, or people to look out for. I really did not expect her to come in the top 4, and I don't really mean that in a mean way. That kind of sounded mean when I said that. I don't really have a reason why. It's just one of those things where you pay attention to one athlete more that you just think that they're gonna be in the top 4. I don't know what it is, but I just had that instinct, it's gonna be Caitlin Vance. I don't know why. Okay, so let's talk about how Daisy McDonald did. She really impressed me. I feel like she just slipped right through the cracks. In the first event, she finished in 8th with a time of 25 minutes and 48.59 seconds. In the second event, she finished in 3rd with a time of 13 minutes and 38.41 seconds. In the third event, she finished in 6th with a time of 12 minutes and 48.67 seconds. In the 4th event, she finished in 2nd with a time of 8 minutes and 45.80 seconds. In the 5th event, she finished in 8th also with a time of 8 minutes and 21.73 seconds. And then lastly, in the 6th event, she finished in 11th place with a time of 4 minutes and 54.26 seconds. I don't know much about her, to be honest. She just hasn't got much attention, I feel like. I'm not sure how I think she would do in the games. To be honest, I'm just shocked to not see Caitlin Van Zyl in the games. Not in the games, I mean. That shocks me the most. I'm not surprised that Daisy McDonald is going to go to the games because she is so gifted and so athletic and strong and built. And she also kind of has that gymnastic-y features in some ways. But I am shocked to not see Caitlin Van Zyl. That is what I'll say. So let's talk about 4th place, which I did predict correctly. Okay, look at that. I did something right. In fourth place was Georgia Pryor. She did not do great in the quarterfinals, but she came out very hungry in the semifinals. She's been competing for so long, and her hard work has really, really paid off. I'm excited to see her in the games because with how much she has been working, I think she is going to be hungrier than ever and really impress everyone. In the first event, she finished in 19th with a time of 27 minutes and 48.75 seconds. She did not particularly start off well, finishing in 19th in her first event, but that just made her even more motivated, it seemed like, because she ended up getting really good placements in all the other events. In the second event, she placed 5th with a time of 14 minutes and 19.91 seconds. In the third event, she placed 3rd with a time of 12 minutes and 43.33 seconds. In the fourth event, she finished in 6th with a time of 9 minutes and 11.85 seconds. In the fifth event, she placed 6th again with a time of 8 minutes and 14.36 seconds. And lastly, in the sixth event, she placed 2nd with a time of 3 minutes and 47.29 seconds. She was really strong in the semifinals, and she stood out as a competitor to me since she sort of made a little comeback on that second day for sure. I really recommend going back and watching some of these segments, some of these clips of the semifinals. You can find them on YouTube, and it was like a live. They have the entire games, like an 8-hour live. I actually recommend going and like looking at some of them. Also, you can look at the team competitions, and with that, and geez, some of the team groups, the team workouts are insane. So if you're interested in seeing that, I recommend checking that out as well. And we'll be keeping you guys updated on CrossFit Games and all of that. Okay, so that concludes our show for you guys today. Thank you guys for tuning into the GSMC Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, presented to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show and leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok and Instagram for more content and updates. And we also do YouTube Shorts every single day. Thank you guys once again, and have an amazing day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.